We are live. I guess that's how it works. Okay, well, this is new for all of us. So a little bit of a downtime there at the beginning, but I guess that's how it works. I'm Nick Redding, and I am the Executive Director of Preservation Maryland. And I'm joined here today by Ellie Cowan, who is the Director of Advocacy for Preservation Maryland. And we're here to welcome you to Preservation Month. We have a lot of cool things coming up. We've been very busy, even though we've all been working from home for the past 7 weeks, like I'm sure many of our followers are. And wanted to give you a couple quick updates, and then we're going to talk a little bit about advocacy and what's been done at the both the state and what we're working on the federal level, because there's quite a bit of action happening and good things happening and some things that we could use our members' support on. So, one of the things that we've been talking about, we're not providing human services, right? And right now, first and foremost, the need is to keep people at home, keep people healthy, keep people safe. And that's our priority, both for our staff and all of our friends. But there is a big role that preservation can play during this pandemic, and certainly in the recovery to follow. I think that there's a real sense, and I had a chance to write an op-ed for Maryland Matters about the sense that we're missing something by missing the places that we hold so dear right now. And it's hard to put our finger on it, but not being able to get out is tough. And not being able to see these places that matter is tough. And so it underscores the value of our work. And it also shows that preservation can play a big role in the recovery, because in the end, preservation is community revitalization and community support. And our communities are going to need that. And we also have a workforce development program here at Preservation Maryland, which is going to take on even greater purpose and need in the coming years. So we also have some important updates coming next week. We're going to be announcing yet another new program. We figured while we're all here in quarantine, why not do another new program? So we are. And we've been working on it, though, I should say, in all seriousness, for the better part of almost 3 years, and have some great support and have a great project to tell you about. And we'll be doing that next Tuesday at 11 a.m. right here live on Facebook. And then also later this month, as a result of our work with the Campaign for Historic Trades and our partnership with the National Park Service, we're going to be launching the Harrison Goodall Fellowship, which is a fund that will support early career and mid-career training for historic trades professionals who want to do research or study with someone or sort of perfect their craft. Which is something that's really missing from the preservation landscape. And we're very pleased to be working with the Park Service to do that. And I should also say, if you just can't get enough of this voice, you can also listen to PreserveCast, our podcast, which was now transitioned back to a weekly podcast because we've got the time and the capacity to do it. And so there's over 120 episodes with new ones coming every week. And so you can hear everything from London mudlarking to an upcoming interview with the new chairman of the Advisory Council on Historic Preservation, Amy Giorgiani. But that's enough updates from me. We've got a lot going on, and you're welcome to head to our website, presmd.org/news, and check out all of the blogs and all the posts there, which detail all of this. But we're fortunate to have Ellie with us. And Ellie was our boots on the ground in Annapolis this session, working with our partners and all of our supporters there, and a lot of legislators who have been very supportive of our work. And want to talk about some of the work that you did and the successes. Let's focus on those. We can talk a little bit about maybe what we didn't accomplish, but what happened in Annapolis? Was it a unique session?
You could say that. So the 441st session of the Maryland General Assembly ended early for only the second time in its history. I think the first time was during the Civil War. So you could say we're living in unprecedented times. It ended about 3 weeks early. It ended on Wednesday, March 18th. Normally sine die would have been on April 6th. So in the last few weeks there, everything was a little condensed, to really say the least. But we were able to get our historic tax credit legislation through, which we were really happy about, because a lot of the really great legislation that we had put our time into testifying in favor of, lobbying in favor of, unfortunately, just in the rush to get priority legislation through, fell to the wayside. So to be able to say that we got our historic tax credit legislation through it is pretty great. And so that was the Historic Revitalization Tax Credit Improvement Act of 2020, which was sponsored on the House side by Delegate Stephanie Smith, and on the Senate side by Senator Katie Fry Hester. And that legislation now allows for the state historic tax credit to be transferred. And what that does is it helps get more of those tax credit dollars into the projects for which they're awarded, which is something I think we can all agree is what we want. It gets projects moving forward faster, because as I think we all know in the historic preservation field, these large commercial projects are fairly complex in terms of funding, and to be able to help streamline any of that process and get the shovels in the ground sooner is exactly what we want. So we'd actually introduced legislation to do just this for the last 2 years. So to be able to finally get this through was really, really special. So
yeah, it takes a solid 3 years to get anything done.
Right, exactly.
In Annapolis, first year you float the test balloon. Second year they start getting used to it. Third year, and then like, let's pass it.
Yeah, third year they get so annoyed with you coming to their offices, they're like, fine, whatever you want. And so that was really great. Very happy to have done that. And then there were a few other things that we were able to get through, including a couple of bond bills. Oh, they're not even called bond bills anymore, are they?
Legislative initiatives.
Legislative initiatives. And so we worked on, we were supportive of 3 of those, and well, more than that, but 3 that we're directly involved with were able to go through. One for the Orchard Street Church in Baltimore City, which is one of our 6 to Fix projects with the Baltimore Urban League. The Burtis House on Annapolis City Dock, which was last year's 6 to Fix project, and money for the revitalization of Jonathan Street, another 6 to Fix project. So you can say we pick them.
Yeah, actually, if you add it all up, I mean, in the past 6 months, we've injected almost $500,000 into 6 to Fix projects.
Yeah, it's pretty incredible.
Which is a huge, that's a huge number for an organization of our size. And we're pretty proud of that, because, we don't promise lots of money with 6 to Fix. I mean, a lot of times it's capacity, it's support, it's moving the projects forward, but we do what we can. And this year we were fortunate in being able to score some big victories. And also there was one more in there that I even sort of forgot about as we were thinking this through. So many good stories, we couldn't even remember all of them, which is the Schaefer Farm.
Oh yeah.
In Burkittsville, Maryland.
Right.
So we're geographically diverse. You've got Annapolis, Hagerstown, Frederick County,
Baltimore City.
And Baltimore City, just in the bond bill selection there. And the Schaefer Farm was General Franklin's headquarters during the Battle of South Mountain in 1862. And as a lot of our members know, we've done a lot of battlefield preservation work out there, and hope to do some more soon. And that money is going to go towards the actual stabilization of the structure. So we did emergency stabilization a few years back that kept it from collapsing. And now they can actually start doing some of the rehab work to completely make the structure sound and get it ready for that next step. So, and in all of these cases, the funding is just absolutely critical. So it's, the tax credit's a big deal, and sometimes it takes all the oxygen out of the room, but the work that Ellie and our partners have done on the funding side is important too. And there's one other big funding victory in there too, a full funding victory.
Yes, full funding for program Open Space, and within that, that's the Maryland Heritage Areas. And so there's 13 of those all across Maryland. They focus on heritage tourism. And so they were that program was fully funded, and we were very supportive of that and happy to see that that was included in the final budget.
Yeah, it's a big deal.
It is.
So a lot of good things happening on the state side. I mean, obviously, when it comes to the tax credit, we didn't talk about it too much, but we still are stuck at $9 million in funding.
Right.
And just because we're like the broken record team here, Ellie, how much money do they give out for state historic tax credits in the Commonwealth of Virginia?
That's about $100 million a year.
Wow, that's more than an
uncapped program. Yes. And West Virginia does about 30 million. So
yeah, I mean, and it's a number that just has to be repeated over and over and over again. And you know, we'd love to get that number up. I know you've been advocating for years to try and get that number to 30 million. We always say, like, can't we just be a third as good as Virginia? But we've got to, and you know, this moment, what we're going through right now, and the seriousness of this moment really underscores the need for this credit, right? I mean, we need community revitalization. We need affordable housing, and we need walkable places, and we need the ability to get from point A to point B without a car. And historic buildings provide all of those things in great benefit. And there's a huge smart growth value to it as well. And as a lot of our friends here know, we're the home of Smart Growth Maryland, one of our big programs that advocates for sustainable growth and the intersection between growth and historic places. And there's nothing smarter than using historic buildings, things you already have. And as you know, local government and state government budgets get stretched, we need to really focus on those types of deals even more. So hopefully, what's happening now potentially will be an impetus. You know, maybe there'll be some silver linings to this pain that we're living through now, and some of it can be on sustainable growth and rehabbing places that matter and creating community. Which, boy, we all realize that how much we need community after this.
Well, and I think you make a really good point too, where with the state and local budgets stretched to the limit, we really need to start looking at ready-made programs for revitalization, and the historic tax credit's ready to go. You have a proven 8-to-1 return on investment to the state in terms of economic activity generated within that. And so getting buildings that are not on the tax roll currently back on there, bringing new businesses into areas, you know, more affordable housing, like you said, all of those things that the historic tax credit is ready to deliver, if only the state can invest a little bit more in that program.
Which is a good way to maybe pivot, because the state is going to be down in dollars, but the federal government is pumping money right now, as they kind of have to keep everything afloat and everything moving. So there's a lot of opportunities at the federal level, and we've joined with our partners at the national level, both the National Trust for Historic Preservation, Preservation Action, the National Preservation Partners Network, which is the association of all the statewide and local groups, as well as NCSHPO, the National Council of State Historic Preservation Officers. I think we got all of our acronyms in here. I think did we get them all? We'll get some more.
I think so.
So, but we joined with all of them on sort of a common mission of like, hey, look, if there's going to be more stimulus coming, we've got some great programs that stimulate the local economy, save historic places, and we can get the money out the door immediately without creating any new programs, which the Congress has said, no new programs. We just want to invest in what we already have. And so we have a lot of those. So you want to talk about federal tax credit without getting too wonky?
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. And so obviously Maryland has our state level historic tax credit, but there's also the federal credit. And right now we're supporting the passage of new legislation that would augment the current federal program. Its nickname is HTC Go. And what that that legislation would do is it would encourage more building reuse, especially on main streets. Thumbs up. Which is something that, you know, we obviously want to encourage in small and rural communities.
Right.
And additionally, there's also a proposal to increase the tax credit percentage for all historic tax credit projects, which has been proven in past disaster recovery to really help encourage the reuse of buildings. So after Hurricane Katrina, you saw the HTC go from 20 to 26% in the Go Zone Act of 2005. Similar things were done in the Emergency Economic Stabilization Act of 2008 after the tornadoes and flooding in the Midwest. So we know that changes like this can help make a difference. And so we're very happy to stand with the National Trust in urging our legislators at the federal level to move those pieces of legislation through.
Yeah, and we know from our friends in Main Street, you know, and our heart goes out to all of our Main Street communities right now, and we're looking at ways in which we can be more engaged and perhaps even provide more support both to Main Street communities, but also to the businesses that make them up. But I mean, we're heading through a business cycle. I mean, there's no way around that. We're going to lose, according to our colleagues at the National Main Street Center. I mean, we have the potential to lose a lot of businesses. And so Main Street needs as much help as it can get. And so if we can pump money in that allows new business owners or existing business owners to rehab, create new spaces, and do it in a way that they can save their beautiful historic buildings and, you know, be able to reap some tax benefits from that. I mean, this is a great way where the federal government over time makes money on the federal historic tax credit. There's not a lot of stimulus money going out there that then
where it's coming back in
makes money back. So this is one of those things where it sort of seems like common sense, and there's a lot of bipartisan support for this. And in fact, I should say that about all of these. I mean, Preservation Maryland, of course, is a nonpartisan organization. We will work with members at the state level all across the aisle. And we've done the same at the federal level, of course. And, you know, and so there's broad bipartisan support for a lot of what we're talking about. So the other big piece, other big chunk of the request is for grant funding for a variety of different grant sources at the federal level.
Right. So we're asking for $420 million to go into the Historic Preservation Fund and the rehabilitation grants within the Preservation Fund. There's quite a number of them, but two to really highlight are the Save America's Treasures and the Historically Black Colleges and Universities grant programs. You know, investing in programs that can help then provide grants to places in need is something that we think would be wise in the next round of stimulus legislation that the feds are going to start looking at shortly.
Yeah, and you know, HBCUs here in Maryland, like Morgan, got some money out of the program. There's also money in there for the Rural Revitalization Subgrant Program, which we've applied for. So stay tuned. We'll see what happened in this most recent round. But we're, you know, the program is currently funded at, I think, about $5 million a year. They're talking about increasing it for a one-time appropriation up to $75 million. And that money goes directly into, in most cases, Main Street type communities and rural areas. It's capital grant funding that can go to for-profits. It can go to individuals. And basically preservation groups like Preservation Maryland administer and manage it. So the feds get the money out the door, and then nonprofits get it to the people that need it quickly. So that's a great program as well. And then, of course, there's another big piece of this, which is the Great American Outdoors Act.
Yes. Well, and as Nick, you said earlier, I think since in the last, almost 8 weeks now, I think people have really come to appreciate being outdoors and you know, the need for open space and to connect. And so again, this is a bipartisan piece of legislation which would put funding to the towards the National Park Service and other federal agencies. And it would be, I think, the single largest federal investment in the preservation of historic and cultural resources in our generation. So,
oh, absolutely.
That's pretty big.
Yeah, for those people who can harken back to Mission 66, which is where a lot of our really cool mid-century, not you, Ellie, where a lot of our really, not me either. Well, I've read about it though, where a lot of our really cool mid-century visitor centers at national parks. Here in Maryland, there's a variety of them, but Antietam National Battlefield has a great Mission 66 visitor center. That was a huge infusion in the post-World War II generation into the parks. And the parks, you know, there's fits and starts, but there's a maintenance backlog of nearly $12 billion, of which, depending on how you slice it, about 3 to 4 billion of it is historic buildings. And so this would inject almost $9.5 billion into the national parks, be a huge job creator. And as many people know, we run a program called the Campaign for Historic Trades, which is a partnership with the National Park Service and the Historic Preservation Training Center here in Frederick, Maryland. And, you know, this is an opportunity to create jobs, train young adults and returning veterans on historic trades, get them into careers. And the benefit of it is we have beautiful restored national parks that people can visit that aren't crumbling. And it's really a gift to the next generation. And so this one, again, I mean, this one actually has really broad bipartisan support, all the way from leadership on both sides, all the way down. And it was due for a vote in March. And then something happened in March. And then, and so they have not brought this up for a vote. So what we're hoping is that there's really sort of this community revitalization infrastructure / preservation component of the next stimulus package, which may include some or all of these parts. And there's an opportunity, and you wrote the post, for people to get engaged if they're interested in contacting their legislators here in Maryland about this.
Right. Yes. So there's a blog if you want to learn more about any of these programs that we've discussed, the legislation. It's on our blog at presmd.org. And then there's also a link there to contact your legislators and let them know that you would like to see them support this this package.
Absolutely. Well, this has been our little brief entree to Preservation Month. Maybe we'll come back and do this again, let people know how things are going, or if there's a moment to update people on an advocacy issue. Absolutely. We definitely will come back and do that. And all throughout Preservation Month, we're going to bringing our members and our supporters new content. Not only PreserveCast every week, it drops every Monday, and you can, if you want to look at all the back episodes, you can go to preservecast.org, or you can find it on iTunes, Google Play, wherever you get your podcasts. But we're also going to be trying to bring some live video and conversations with different folks. And the next one that's coming up is going to be a big announcement of a project that we're going to be working on. And that is going to be this upcoming Tuesday, which also happens to be Giving Tuesday now. So an opportunity if you're interested in supporting an organization like Preservation Maryland. And that announcement is going to be on Tuesday at 11 a.m. right here on Preservation Maryland's Facebook page. And we certainly hope to see you there. It is always a pleasure to see you, Ellie. Hope to get to see you in person someday. But until then, thank you to all of our supporters. And thanks for your support of the very best of Maryland.